48 BC, Julius Caesar burned the Library of Alexandria. Every history book says so. Every documentary repeats it. There is just one problem. It didn't happen. The library was killed 3 times, with 3 different weapons. And the people who destroyed it were not monsters. They were kings, emperors, scholars, people who claimed to love knowledge. Because right now, at this exact moment, the same thing is happening again. Stay until the end, because the 3rd weapon is the one you use every day. 3 deaths. The theft. The silence. The forgetting. This is the story of the greatest library ever built, and how humanity destroyed it 3 times, without ever admitting what it had done. Around 300 BC, a Greek general named Ptolemy took control of Egypt. He was a foreigner on ancient soil. He needed legitimacy. So he built something no one had ever attempted before. A library that would contain everything, every scroll, every language, every civilization. At its peak, historians estimate, between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls. But here's what they never tell you in school. Ptolemy didn't buy those scrolls. He stole them. Every ship that entered the harbor of Alexandria was searched. Originals confiscated. Owners received only copies. This was official state policy, intellectual piracy at the highest level of power. Athens once lent Alexandria their most precious manuscripts. The original plays of Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. Ptolemy kept the originals, sent back copies, and paid the fine without hesitation. The knowledge was worth more than the money. The library was built on stolen property. Knowledge was not a gift to humanity. It was a weapon of political control. For 300 years, the library survived. Euclid wrote his geometry here. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth here. The library was not just a building. It was the ancient world's internet. Then came 48 BC. Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria. Fire spread from the ships to the docks, and history decided. Caesar burned the library. But what actually burned was a waterfront warehouse, storage for export copies, not originals. The main library stood far from the harbor. It was untouched. 20 years after Caesar, travelers still described it as a living institution. Caesar did not kill the library. He gave us a convenient villain. When Rome absorbed Egypt, Alexandria became a province. Rome had its own libraries. Funding was cut. Now remember what scrolls were made of. Papyrus. Papyrus breathes. It decays. Moisture destroys it. Insects eat it. To keep 700,000 scrolls alive, you need an army of scribes, copying every single day. When the money stopped, the scribes left. The scrolls sat on their shelves, and slowly, silently, they turned to dust. Not in one night, over 400 years. The second weapon was not fire. It was indifference. By the 4th century, the library was a shadow of itself. Old religions were dying. New ones were rising. Among the remaining scholars was a woman named Hypatia, daughter of a mathematician herself. She taught astronomy, philosophy, and geometry in the open streets. Students traveled from across the empire to hear her speak. Her student, Synesius, wrote to her in one of his surviving letters, "To you alone I turn in my difficulties." She was not the last librarian. History gave her that title because it needed a face for the ending. In 391 AD, a Christian mob tore down the Serapeum, the last temple housing remaining scrolls. But even then, even after the Serapeum, scholars were still in Alexandria, still teaching, still asking questions. In March of 415 AD, Hypatia was dragged from her carriage by a mob. She was killed in the street. After her death, the scholars of Alexandria made a choice. They left, not because the books were burned, because they were afraid. A place where knowledge is dangerous is no longer a place for learning. The library did not end with fire or flood. It ended when the last person who cared stopped coming through the door. The third weapon was fear, and it was the most effective of all. 3 weapons: greed, indifference, fear. None of them require a match. As long as we argue about Caesar and the flames, we don't have to look at ourselves. The knowledge did not disappear completely. Arab scholars in Baghdad translated what survived. Byzantine monks copied fragments in cold monastery cells. Euclid, Archimedes, Aristotle. They survived because individual people decided they were worth saving. Not governments, not emperors. People. Today, the internet holds more knowledge than Alexandria ever dreamed of. Websites disappear without warning. Archives lose their funding. Old file formats become unreadable. And the people who could save it are busy. If you think this channel is worth saving, subscribe, because there are more lost things to find. The internet holds everything Alexandria ever lost. Are we protecting it, or making the same mistake again?